Hello, everybody. This is Seafood Ronald, and we are here with another Kung Fu Talk, the second episode. Before we start with the introduction, before we start our show, please don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to share, don't forget to like. And this episode will be on YouTube and Spotify. Today we are here with Coach Aaron. We're gonna talk about a lot about Bagua, about Xing Yi, about internal Kung Fu, Tai Chi Chuan, and we're gonna have a really nice conversation. Good morning, Coach Aaron. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Honestly, I'm a little stiff. I got a blown out trap, but I'm doing good. I got some coffee before this.
Nice. That's amazing. It's such an honor to have you in our second episode. We've been doing this show in Portuguese since 2020 during the pandemic. And I was like, in doing
Cool.
Portuguese. And then I was like, why not doing this in English? I have a lot of friends, good martial artists that can show, that can express their thoughts, that can share some enlightenment and some knowledge. And it's such a pleasure, it's such an honor to have you here today. And I know, we met during Shuai Jiao classes, and I'm seeing your videos on TikTok, your Tai Chi. It's so
Oh,
incredible. But tell me
thanks.
a little bit about your background. Like, how did you start? Where did you practice? Prior we started a conversation, you told that you've been in China before,
Yeah.
and talk a little bit about your background.
Like from the very beginning, like when I first started, or like
Yeah, when
just Chinese martial arts.
when you first started, what was your first martial arts? How did you start it? What brought you into martial arts? What brought you into what you're practicing right now? You're coaching, you're
Well,
teaching.
yeah. Well, like I got into martial arts for a personal pursuit. I was a very depressed kid. I was very sad. Very hard. Like home life was not very easy. So I was just trying to find answers, trying to find meaning of life, trying to figure out how to, not feel depressed. And I think people can relate to stuff like that. Like martial arts has helped their life. I got into Taekwondo as a kid. It was just the only thing like available around me, and I didn't know much about martial arts. The only reason I started martial arts actually was because of the Shaolin monks. Because I was really sad as a kid, so I was trying to, and all these adults around me at the time, like the late 90s, early 2000s, like everyone was a little bit not healthy, so I couldn't really find answers. I was just like, who is actually happy? And then I looked online, I saw these monks, and they're talking about enlightenment, they're talking about finding inner peace, and they're genuinely happy. So they're the ones that actually inspired me. I'm like, okay, I should do martial arts. Like I should, it's like a master myself kind of aspect. So I just dove into Taekwondo. I think until I was about 18, I think. Yeah, I think it was 18. But I had to stop doing it because my health was in jeopardy. So when I was a kid, I kind of prided myself more on the acrobatic side because I think the Taekwondo school that I was at wasn't very deep. It wasn't very rich in foundation, so it was just very surface level. I would say it's like a McDojo. So I just kind of capped out and I got bored. So I started getting into tricking as a kid, and I started tricking a lot. So do you know what tricking is?
Yes.
Yes. So I enjoyed tricking. It's just like a cool fusion of martial arts, gymnastics, and breakdancing. And
Hmm.
I was like a teenager, so it's just a really cool way to express yourself. But I just went really hard at it, like obsessively hard. And I got really proficient at like flipping and stuff. And this other Taekwondo school, it was run by these Koreans that were on the national demo team for South Korea. I can't remember for what age, but they would do stuff where they would throw apples in the air and backflip and kick it and stuff, and backflip and break boards. And they saw my flips because I walked in their school one day and they were like, "We'll give you a job if you join our demo team and help us win competitions so that we can get more students." And for me, I was just like, well, yeah, yeah, I'll do that. And it was a great job and a terrible job. I would say that it was super stressful. If I wasn't 100%, I got in trouble. If I wasn't doing my best, I was in trouble. It's just very hard work style. So we're training competition, and we've already done like 3 or 4 by then. And it was cold. I didn't stretch. I was just being stupid, but I was being pushed too. Like the expectations were really high. And I remember doing like a bunch of back handsprings. I did this huge flip. I arched a little bit hard, and my spine just snapped. So, my
Wow.
it just I didn't know what happened at the time, but I remember I landed, and I was really nauseous, and I just had to sit down. And then I went to the doctor later in the week, and he's just like, yeah, your spine's messed up. It's not, we can't really fix it. You maybe you could do surgery, but so the doctors were just telling me, yeah, you're just gonna have to give up martial arts. So that was really, really, really hard for me. So then I had to stop. I had to tell them that I had to quit because, I was just like, well, what about my future? Chair. So I just couldn't do it, and I had to quit here. I worked at a burrito shop. That was pretty depressing. Yeah.
Wow, that's very impressive.
That's my. Well, I mean, it's not impressive to break yourself, but
of course.
Right. But
Yeah, but
yeah, I moved. Saw this thing online where there was this guy. His name was Master Guo, and he's like regarded as like a national treasure for qigong. I didn't really know what qigong was at the time, but he fixed someone else's spine similar to my injury. And since no one was giving me the answers here, I just like, you know what? I was working really hard, so I had like $15,000 saved up at the time, and I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna dump it all, move to China, and do that. And I just moved to China for like a long time. I think I was there. Well, I was there for like a year, but it felt like a long time. And then I started learning. qigong, and then that's where it all started. I started doing qigong. I took it very seriously because it was the only thing that I could do that I didn't feel pain in. I was always in pain, and I couldn't sleep on a bed. I had to pace around my house, or I would get like these breathing problems. So I started doing standing qigong, just basic stuff, and after 3 months, my spine pain just went away. Like, it just didn't hurt anymore. And then I just was like, that was like the turning point where I was just like, okay, there's something here. This is really cool. And all the other students that were there, like, they did it. They didn't do it as much as I did because they weren't injured. So we did it like an hour in the morning, hour at night, and then I did Tai Chi all day. But I would do it even more because, well, I wanted to fix my spine. So it's a really good motivator. So I just fell in love with it. And after 6 months, I could do it again. I was stronger than I ever was, and I felt great. And then I just slowly, and that kind of branched into my internal route.
Oh, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
When I say impressive before, it was like, because I've seen you, the videos that I've seen was recently from someone that had your spine injured and not being able to practice martial arts anymore. And then out of the blue, and I see all your Tai Chi videos, I was like, oh, wow, man, that's something really nice. And that's what I tell people about, the benefits of traditional martial arts. When you practice with the corrected person, the corrected way, when somebody who really knows what they're teaching the corrected path, it's a journey. It's not just about money. Unfortunately, there's people out there, as you mentioned, with Mac Dojos. It's not about the art. It's just who's teaching, because Taekwondo is a beautiful style, but unfortunately, people, they start selling things and they start selling the arts just because of the money. I understand it's a business, but in a way, making other people's life miserable. It's upset to see how they're destroying this perspective of that martial arts. Because I also had a similar experience with other Taekwondo schools in the past, and it's sad to see how some of the masters they diminish the art because they're so greedy, and it's sad. And again, it's not about the art, it's all about who's running that business and how they're spreading that art. But that's really nice. And that's how you got into Bagua and Xing Yi at the same place, or did you practice someone else?
So I actually really cool really cool how I got into Tai Chi, because I did Tai Chi first. So when I got there, I was there to do Qigong. And if you've ever done Qigong, it's very boring because you're just standing still. So there was like all kinds of groups there. There was a Shaolin master that was like, he was like third in China. It's like, oh, that's really cool. I want to do Shaolin. But I was doing Shaolin, and it was like a intuitional thing. Like, I was doing it, and I was honestly, maybe some people might be like, no, that's not true. But I felt like Shaolin was similar to Taekwondo, just with extra steps. Like, there wasn't like a deeper lesson. Like, I'm just like, these are just more forms. These are just more techniques. And like, I got them really quick. Like, they make sense, because if you've been doing Taekwondo for 15 years and you're really into it, you understand how the techniques relate to each other, and they have history. But then 2 weeks in, I think I was there, Tai Chi, and he was his name was Master Chen, and he was from Chen Village, where Chen style is from. I had no idea what Tai Chi was. I just thought Tai Chi was what for old people in the park, and I just saw all the slow stuff, and you know, like being yeah, like, he did this demonstration because when he was at the school, they don't just give him students; he has to acquire students.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have to seek him, and if he doesn't get any students, he gets fired. So he did a Chen style like cannon fist routine. You know, what people don't know about Chen style is that Yang style is what people see what the old people do, but a lot of Chen style is a mix of yin and yang. So there's very slow movements, but there's also explosive popping movements where like he would punch and his whole body would like explode. Like it was like an AOE effect. Like I he was doing things with his body that I was just like, I don't know what he's doing. I don't understand that. I can't do that. And I was like, I want to do that. I mean, that's something I can learn. And on top of that, all of the other masters were miserable. They were frowning. They were sad. They were angry. They were serious. And that's all I've been around my whole life. But he was smiling all the time. He was always smiling. And there was another thing I was like, I want what he has. I want his happiness. Like, why is he so happy? So that's why I started learning from him. And he was such a sweet man. Like I didn't think I learned his lesson then, but I learned it later in life, and I wish I could tell him, but I don't know how to contact him. But yeah, that's how I got into it. I just was like, this is cool. I didn't know Tai Chi was so applicable. I mean, like he was so good at wrestling too. We couldn't beat him. He would just throw us like rag dolls. His rooting, his stance, his structure, his softness mixed with explosive, like his timing. It was just so cool. And on top of that, his qigong ability was amazing. Like when he was doing Tai Chi, it was like he was listening to music. Like he was playing an instrument with his hands. Like he would just be so in it. Like you would see it on his face. Like he wasn't paying attention to anything but the feeling. And that's what he was trying to express to us. And I was just like, that's so cool. I want that. I want to be a musician of martial arts, if that makes sense. So yeah, I just fell in love with it. I was doing like 8 hours a day for a good long time. And we learned ironically, I learned cannon fist first. You're not supposed to, but he just wanted us to be excited. So he was like, yeah, I'll show you cannon fist. And we were just doing that. And I'd love to get into that detail of training because a lot of people haven't seen the cannon fist side of Tai Chi and what the traditional training looks like. Have you ever seen, Wing Chun, how they use those big, long dragon poles, like the big, long drying pole things?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. They're like 18 foot or something. So he'd give us the stick. And he would take the stick and he would go whoom, like that. And the whole stick would just shake like crazy. And we couldn't do it. Like we were shaking. And it was just like, I was able to shake that stick for 6 months. And I felt like an idiot for 6 months. And I just didn't get it. And eventually, he almost gave up on us. But then I was like, no, I'm going to keep trying. And then one day it clicked. And I just shook the whole pole. And then that's when it clicked for me. I was like, oh. It's not me, it's not my muscles, it's my interaction with the ground, and it's the interaction of how my tendons play off of that. Like it's like a rebound effect. I don't know how to describe it really, but it's different. It's like using the force beyond yourself. Like you're trying to line yourself structurally with the floor and using the floor or the ground's inertia to generate power. And if you're relaxed enough, you act as like a conduit and it just shoots up your body and it feels like a lightning rod. And it's really cool. And the whole staff would shake. And yeah, it was just cool, man. I get system, but the fast stuff is also really cool.
That's amazing. So,
Yeah.
okay, would you say that Tai Chi would be your primary style, or maybe because you also have background on Bagua and Xing Yi, correct?
Yeah. Well, so after that school, my master, my shifu at the time, he took us out to a dinner, and it was right before we were going to go to a big competition, and he just told us that he has to leave because the school wasn't paying him enough. He couldn't send money to his family and get enough money for food, so he had to leave. So we were really sad about it, and we got a replacement Tai Chi coach, which was his disciple brother, but we didn't click very well, and we butted heads too much, and I just felt this pulling away from the school. So then I went to, Wudang Mountains, right, with the Taoist priests.
Yes.
Yeah, so I went there, and then I started studying under Master Yuan, and he's like a very famous Taoist master. You see him on Instagram a lot. He was in the Karate Kid, but he's a really cool guy, really, really wise, and that's where I learned Xing Yi and Bagua there. Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh,
Cool.
wow, that's very
Cool. Cool.
impressive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and how was the communication when you were there? Did you know Mandarin or Cantonese, or do you had a
Uh,
translator? How was it?
Okay, yeah, so that's really funny actually. So I really love Chinese. I took it in high school, and it was like literally the only class where I got A's in, and my guys were D's. But I just think because my teacher was really good. She was from China, and yeah, no, I like it. But when you move to China, you realize you're like, okay, maybe you know a little bit, but when you're living in Shandong versus Hubei versus Sichuan, the dialect's different, the slang's different, and the accent's different. So you just gotta have to start over, basically. I communicate kind of, but then you got to understand that my shipper was from Chen Village, this tiny little village in the middle of, I think it's in Henan. So he had a very distinct dialect, and I just had to learn. I mean, it was hard. He was very sweet. He would take us out for ice cream and stuff. We would clean the tour, get ice cream, but he couldn't communicate all that well. I think the only English he said was he said no Gia, and I still don't know what that means to this day. So I just talked to him in Chinese the best I could. Also, he would call ramen quickly noodle. I always really calling it that. But we had some translators at the school, but they weren't very good. We only had one translator, and she was the main one, and she actually learned English from watching Friends, like the show. And her English was perfect. But then we had all these translators that went to college for it, and they were terrible. Like, we had this one translator. She would listen to what we would say, and she would say the wrong thing to our coach, and our shipper would get really mad. Like, he'd be like, "Why would you say that?" And I would have to learn how to say, like, I can't remember how it was like, it's like Mayo Namashwa or something like that. But I had to learn how to say, like, no, I didn't say that. Like, she would say stuff like, I would be like, oh, well, I don't really understand. How do you do this movement? And she would translate it as like, you're not teaching the movement correctly, and it's not very good. And he'd be like so mad, and I'll be like, no, I swear, I didn't say that. So I just was like, forget it. She would look at me, and I'd be like, no, I got this. We can play charades. It was pretty brutal, but it's funny looking back, because I was just like, oh my god, my shipper's gonna beat me with a stick, and I didn't even deserve it. Sorry, I'm getting excited. I like bounce around a lot, but yeah, that's that's my basic knowledge in Chinese. It's better now, but I need to practice more.
That's really cool, man. That's amazing. That's why I love this thing. We have the opportunity to talk with different people with different background. You always learn something new. That's really nice, especially with you that being straight to the Chen village, practice with great martial artists, and it's very impressive. How can you explain the key principles that differentiate between the Bagua and the other internal martial arts, such as Tai Chi, Xing Yi? We know that they always connect at the end, but Bagua is pretty much, like the circle movements, but you still have a lot of connection. How can you differentiate and connect them? Like, what would you say which the key principles for each one of them?
So I really, really like this. I think about this stuff like all the time, and I always try to articulate these very esoteric concepts in a Western palette so that we can kind of grasp it, because the way I learned in China is they don't really talk. They just show you and you copy it. So there's not a lot of intellectual side of it. Well, of course, if you speak Chinese, I'm sure you can get in the detail, but the way you learn is very like, do this and that. So the principles are the same. I mean, like, we have a human body. All human bodies work fundamentally the same. Like, you'll see the same principles in jiu-jitsu as you would in Tai Chi. You would see the same principles in Muay Thai as you would in Bagua. It's like, elbows down, shoulders relaxed, head posture, chest cape. That stuff is very, like, you can look at that online and that's very obvious. But that doesn't define a martial art. That defines your ability to follow the laws of the human body, right? But what separates styles of martial arts, which I really like, is philosophy. Because if you really think about it, like the whole debate where my style is better than your style and this style is better than that style and stuff is complete novice, like amateur talk, you know, because in reality,
Mhm.
if the martial art survived to this day, it had to have worked, because even back in the day, like if it didn't work, it didn't work. So they all have the same moves. Like all traditional complete martial arts will have some form of striking, grappling, some ground aspect, and also weapons. And they would just have a specialized version of them because those techniques fit with their philosophy. You'll see the same moves across the board. Philosophy is what separates all martial arts styles. It's just how you approach it. So for Tai Chi, right? I think the best way I can explain it is, think of us like a circle, right? Think
Mhm.
of our hips. Our hips are, and that's like a circle, if you will. Okay, so the idea of Tai Chi is guiding force, where I'm guiding the force around the circle. So it's like it's the same thing, like, you know, if someone does judo or swaijiao, it's the same aspect of like kazushi or something, where, you know, you're listening to another object's momentum and force, and you're, instead of working against it, you're moving with it and guiding it past you and adopting the alignment and postures so that force can go, you know, past. And Tai Chi is using, so what they'll do in their way of combat is where they'll stick, they'll follow, they'll guide it past with their hips, so they'll let it go past them, and then they'll use an explosive action to finish the throw or finish the technique. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. So, how would you say the circular movement benefits the martial artist, both physically and mentally?
Wait. Let's go into Xing Yi and Bagua before we move into that. Okay.
Okay, sure,
So
sure.
we're talking about just with the circle, and where the Tai Chi is guiding it past. Where now we're
Okay.
using the circle to overcome someone else's structure. So it's like if the circle moves transversely, now we're using the circle to move on a sagittal plane, which means forward. So you're using these forward circular momentums structure. So that's like an intrusive circle. Does that make sense? You'd see it
Yes,
similar to Wing Chun too. Bagua
exactly.
is when the circle moves around their circle. So it's finding the path of least resistance. So instead of the circle staying in one place, the circle moves past their circle. It's almost like Bagua and Tai Chi are the opposite of each other, where Tai Chi is guiding the force past you, while Bagua is you're guiding your force past them. You're both finding the path of least resistance, and Xing Yi is too, but it's just at a different perspective. Tai Chi is about finding the path of least resistance where they're going. Bagua is about finding the path of least resistance where you're going, and Xing Yi is finding the path of least resistance through them. If that makes sense.
Wow,
I
that's
think
really nice.
that's the best way.
Because normally, and like for example, you
That's the best
mentioned,
way I can explain it.
no, that's really nice. And the like when
Okay.
we compare with like Wing Chun, we work through the center line. Everything comes from your doing,
Mm.
and we try to work, to manage your opponents and throw their doing in their center line to the side so you can get through them. It's nice to
Mm.
see how the circular. So how would be how the circular movements would benefit physically and mentally as well.
Well, okay. So, so physically, I want to paint this picture in people's minds when they're listening to this,
Mhm.
that there are a lot of illusions in life. There are no straight lines in nature. There's
Mhm.
not. It appears straight because we're simplifying it, but there is only circles and spirals. They're just on different. It's a spectrum, if you will. So I study biomechanics, and what I do right now is my profession has moved towards rehabilitation. So I fix people's like joints and stuff, and flat feet and knees and hips. And what I've really noticed within that study is that there's no such thing as, even when you're walking straight, your leg as you step down will either externally or internally rotate on a very small level. Now with Tai Chi or Bagua or anything like that, but especially Bagua moves within these ranges of motions on extreme ends and externally rotating, or we're externally rotating hips with our arms as well. And doing this creates a wide spectrum of mobility, and that creates an overall level of health. If we always try to be straight, we'll never really experience extremes. Ever been to the extreme of each end? No, you're not. Because think of it like this. How can you truly experience your full speed if you've never experienced true stillness? You cannot. You're always living in an in-between. So you have to go between your extremes to find the balance. That's the philosophy of yin and yang. So that's how I would say on a physical level, studying an art that explores the extremes of your body and the end range motions and the coordination of each other will, as a cross trainer, would be magnificent for any sport or style. Does that make sense?
Mhm. Absolutely.
Mentally it also helps. I mean, mentally it just makes us more flexible. I think a psychologist said that a healthy mind is based upon how flexible it is. So, you have to be, yeah. I mean, being flexible physically will transfer mentally. I mean, just understanding that, mm, the essence of Bagua is change. If you start aligning yourself to the essence of change, life doesn't really bother you as much,
Mhm.
because there's no consistent thing in life but change. So if you're always aligned to the constant change of life, physically and also mentally, you're always good. You're always happy. I mean, to an extent. I think that's the best philosophical way I could explain it. I sometimes talk in these weird esoteric ways, but realizes these like vague topics. Is that fair? I mean, stop me if it's too much.
No, no, no. You can keep going.
Okay.
Like I love it. I like how you get into very philosophical way. Because normally mentally, when people think like what I mentally is, and your explanation about the philosophical way of changing through the perspective of physically first, and then you're gonna shape that, psychologically and mentally. It's very impressive. It's really nice.
Yeah, actually, from coaching martial arts, something that I really noticed is when you're teaching people how to spar, you learn. First off, I know because you spar, right? When you spar with someone,
Mhm.
you actually can learn about that person on a deeper level because their true personality, their true essence, their fears, all that stuff. It comes out in the heat of the moment. Like you can't put on a facade. Actually, like you can play, but have you ever like done jujitsu or anything
Mhm.
where it's like really intense? Like people will spaz, people will get scared, or people will relax, and I feel like that's a demonstration of their ego, I guess. Through teaching people how to be, that relates. So if you're a scared person, if you're a very fearful individual, when you fight, you're probably going to be very spazzy and you're probably going to be very explosive and you're going to be very reactionary. But if you're a calm individual, someone that's with balance, right, you're always going to be calm, even in the heat. So, those things correlate a lot. So the thing with Bagua is that since it's about change, well, when you make a mistake in fighting, you learn that mistakes are opportunities for success. So you don't panic. So that's how it helps you on a mental level, I think. I think that makes sense. I mean, it made sense in my head.
No, it definitely. One thing that I was just thinking about that when we're practicing, we like as you said, like through the sparring, we have something inside that expressed through the movements. So maybe the person is afraid of hitting, or maybe the person is too scared of punching or something. It plays a little bit more defensive. But when you practice and perfect your movement, so you're practicing your movement externally to strengthen what you have inside. So it's a both way route, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Then you're mastering yourself. Like a lot of martial artists never really explore the full spectrum of sparring because, well, they're scared or, they're like, well, I have everything. But if you truly love martial arts, you should be unbiasedly open to all aspects of it. So that even includes people that do sport fighting that are opposed to doing Tai Chi or Qigong. Why? Why ignore it? If it's a facet of life, if it's an aspect of life, why are you resisting that aspect of life? Resisting it doesn't make it not there. It's still there. You're the one resisting it because I can embrace all. I don't attach myself to those identities. I'm not a sparer. I'm not a meditator. I'm just having fun. I'm just having an experience. So that's what I would also add on to that logic. It's about mastering yourself.
Exactly. And that's one of the things that we normally see like in the modern martial arts, like such as MMA, boxing, people they're too concerned about winning, fighting, beating up people, and they forget about mastering themselves, which
Yeah,
means work on yourself, work on your fears, work on your personality, and they don't think about that. They just want
yeah,
to go to octagon and just beat up people, and that's it. And
yeah,
in a sense it's important to have a good way of self-defense, but
of
you
course.
they forget, no, not about the art. I'm talking about martial artists in specific, UFC's being there, like, it's a nice show, but like I feel that the way that
Mhm.
they teach martial arts, it's completely wrong in a sense. You see before the fight
Mhm.
people cursing each other. I know it's just to sell tickets and stuff, just to sell the fight, but in a sense, what is that for? Like, who you really are? You playing a character, or you just, or you exactly like that? There's fighters over there. You can
Yeah.
see, like, for example, McGregor, good fighter, but after he broke his leg, he's not the same person anymore. So who you really are at the end?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's the ego. We attach ourselves to identities for a sense of validation, where it's like, I'm a fighter, I can beat people up. This is my validation for existence. This makes me
Mhm.
feel good. This makes me feel like I'm worth something. I'm enough. Which is silly, because even if you didn't have it, you're always enough. You're always validated for your existence. You could be a fisherman. No one is bad mouthing the fisherman, even though he can't fight. It's just a you thing. So, I was talking, I have a lot of sport fighting friends too. I have a lot of them that understand this concept where hurt people, right? Because I was also like that too. I wanted to beat people up. I've hurt people before, and it's made me feel awful. But that's why we get into this, where it's like someone hurt us, so we want to hurt other people. We want to defend ourselves, and we get into this mindset. But people don't understand that it takes strength to overcome another person, but it's true power to overcome yourself. So at the end of the day, after you felt safe enough that you feel like, yeah, I can handle myself, or I feel safe enough to the point, then you have to start mastering yourself. The power within, if you will. That makes sense. That is the main goal of martial arts. Because honestly, it doesn't take much effort to beat someone without experience. It's really not. That's more of like a myth. It's Most people don't know how to stand correctly, especially in this day and
Mhm.
age. They have poor alignment, poor posture, and maybe they're super muscular too. But that's still there's no technique, there's no alignment, and it's just, you could probably do martial arts seriously for about a year or two and be completely fine. But then after that, who are you left with? You're left with yourself. So the whatever it is, your trauma, your problems, your life. So that's where I really like martial artists of the past, like Miyamoto Musashi and stuff, where they write books about the art of life. And that's
Mhm.
really what I'm trying to do right now as a coach, where fighting is cool, but I want to teach people how to be, just be. And that's really hard. I'm not being a martial artist. I'm just being. I'm just existing and being content with that. That's hard, but it's worth it. It's a good skill to have. Can't do martial arts forever. Well, maybe you could do Tai Chi and Bagua, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
impressive how we see Grandmaster Wang. He's now primarily doing just the Tai Chi, but sometimes he
yeah,
goes and teach some throws in the Shuai Jiao. You don't expect it, such an elderly man
yeah,
doing what he does with the age where he is. It's very beautiful and it's impressive. You see, like, there was other day I posted a video on TikTok and Instagram of Ipshun with almost 100 years old doing Chisao. It's like, you can see that
yeah,
he's not in his full potential, but he's still doing it and impressively doing it with, like, young guys and still beating up
yeah,
people, like, just with the Chisao. It's like impressive.
yeah. And have you met Sifu Bender?
Yeah, he's my Sifu. He's my Qigong. He teaches Wing Chun to my Jeet Kune Do Sifu, but I haven't met him in person. I heard about him.
Yeah, he's 84, and he was Ip Man's disciple. He's
Okay.
84, and I met him first day. Well, one of my students was going to him at the time, so I guess he knew that I was a safe person. But he crossed hands with me. He was like, "Yeah, sure," and he popped me off the ground with just a little movement, because his structure was so good, and his skill and his listening. And I was just like humbled. I was like, wow, he's got the real skill. So yeah, I think if you're doing martial arts correctly without ego, you could do it for the rest of your life. But when you muscle stuff, when you force things and you get injuries, forget about it. I think that's a big reason why a lot of jiu-jitsu people will quit at blue belt, because, well, we're normal people and we don't want to live broken lives. So health and balance is very important. Well, also, I wanted to tell you, I didn't tell you this. I've been trying to break into helping sport fighters like jiu-jitsu people, because I actually found out that the same exact postures and movements in Bagua are the exact same postures and movements within jiu-jitsu. They're exactly the same, because I'm doing jiu-jitsu and I'm learning it. Oh, that's this posture. Oh, that's that posture. Whoa, that's crazy. And everything's relating. And even though it's on the ground, it's the same thing. It's just horizontal instead of vertical. So I really would like to break into that field where I could teach jiu-jitsu people Bagua as a cross trainer to promote longevity and health and prevention of injuries, where they're using resistance bands within external and internal ranges of motions, so that when they get kimura'd or Americana'd or anything, right, their hypermobility will prevent that snap or that tear. And it's really new, so everyone's like, I don't know, and hesitant, but I genuinely have been getting results, and it's really cool. So that's another thing that I've been trying to work on. Isn't that cool?
Wow.
It's all the same. When you get rid of the ego and the bias and the silly stuff, right? We're all humans. We're all moving the same way. It's just, are you moving within alignment, or are you in resistance of alignment? If you're within alignment, it works. If you're resisting alignment, well, I hope you're muscular. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Wow.
Cool, right?
That's really amazing. Wow, I'm speechless, because I would never imagine Bagua and Jiu-Jitsu working together, crossing hands and one correlating each other. I've seen different martial artists, such as, for example, Choi Jiao and Judo, they're very similar, or Choi Jiao and Sanda, which they have, many movements that the throws work together. But that's
Yeah.
nice to see a Japanese martial arts and a Chinese martial arts, and they connecting, and
Yeah.
they
Well,
completing each other.
it could also be because I'm doing Chung style
Mhm.
Bagua, because Chung style was coined by Chung Ting, was a national champion in Shuaijiao. So he learned Bagua and applied that philosophy to his already wrestling skills. So I'm sure that's
Mhm.
also why the moves are exactly the same, because they're both grappling arts, but this is an internal grappling art. Okay, there's a lot of potential here. Because like Yin style Bagua is based off of Shaolin, so that's mostly like striking and a little bit of grappling. Just wanted to throw that in there. But
No,
yeah,
that's nice.
it's really it's really cool. I just want to bring guys, and I think we're moving in a new age versus separation.
Absolutely. Going to the next question. So, how can you elaborate on the importance of energy flow or chi in both Bagua and Tai Chi? The importance of energy, for those people that does not understand what this is.
Yeah, easy. Okay, I think I've spent 8 years trying to westernize and explain what qigong is. Okay, so
Mhm.
first off, let's break into the words. Okay, gong means skill, right? Like kung fu is same, great skill. Qi is air, and it's also energy. The characters are very similar. So you want to think of it like, if I eat food, my body turns it into energy. Turns it into energy. That's just what chi is. It's life force. I eat food, it
Mhm.
becomes my life. I breathe the air, it becomes life. Like that's basically what it is on a very basic level. Why cultivating your well, if you didn't have any, you would be dead, right? So
Exactly.
vice versa. The more that you can cultivate, the more that you can become aware of, the more alive you'll feel. As simple as that. Qigong and Bagua, it's fundamental for human life. Qigong is actually not martial arts at all. Qigong is completely separate from martial arts. It's literally just meditation. The act of becoming more aware of the energy in your body. And a lot of people think that's woo, where like you don't have energy. Oh, wrong, because you do. Because if you didn't have energy, you'd be dead. It's very simple. Dead people don't have energy. Alive people have energy. It's very simple. So why are we not aware of that energy? I mean, if we can be aware of our muscles, we can be aware of our breath. Why can't we be aware of literal energy that's fueling our body? You know, and it's just, and that could be on a very basic level too. Like, I mean, you drink a lot of coffee, you're gonna feel more energy. You know, it's like if you're drinking too much coffee and you're not getting enough sleep, you're not gonna have a lot of energy. So becoming aware, like when it's super sunny out, like this heat wave that's been going on, everyone's been crashed out, like not like crashed out, but people have been completely catatonic, sleepy, because there's what the Chinese say is there's too much yang, which means that when there's too much yang, it turns in the yin. So yang is like explosive, fast energy. Yin is like slow, calm energy, and this is just how Chinese medicine categorizes it. So when there's a lot of heat and sun, there's so much energy that it actually goes to its other opposite, and it makes you really relaxed and really vice versa when more energy, and that's where the term lunatic comes from. Because when there's a full moon out, there's a lot of yin, and then all that super yin makes you feel yang. It's like a balance. So that's just how our bodies respond to nature. It's how we exist. But ask me more, because like I start trailing off and I start sounding like this crazy man scrawling on a chalkboard. But I'm just trying to conceptualize. It's a very basic thing, but I think people make it too extreme. You can't chi blast people. That's silly. But breathe better. You know, breath is life. Does that make sense? Stop me if it's
No, no, absolutely not. No, that's your show. I'm here just to ask you to collaborate, but it's really nice to hear such a deep explanation about, because a lot of people, you make this so simple, and people wants to complicate things. Oh, like exactly going into deep explanation of chi, they expect, oh, maybe research. I don't know how to explain how you explain it. It's pretty much as you said, it's like a food. It's something that you need to survive, and you have to maintain your chi and your energy in order to progress into your martial arts. You can just simply just do movements and without no chi. It's impressive.
yeah. I mean, I think we call it energy. I think it would be a lot more palatable, because we don't speak Chinese. So when people hear chi,
Exactly.
they go magic, and you're like, no, not magic. It's just a normal thing that we just didn't put words to. It's just your energy level. That's all.
How can you
But I mean, like, and, yeah. Yes.
sure, how can you make it effective applying in self-defense situations, such as, not only the art but the chi itself? When I see Tai Chi Yang, it seems very boring for those that doesn't understand. But when you see the Shen style, more explosive, using a lot of Pajing, which I would say it's the energy part of explosion into self application, it's a little bit more what's it, explain for application. So you see, that this is a kick, it's a snap, it's a punch or something. But how would you explain the application into a real life situation, into Tai Chi and
Okay.
Bagua?
This is a two-part answer, and I'm going to
Mhm.
try to answer this in a way that is extremely simple, not super complicated. Regarding if Tai Chi and Bagua can work in a real life self defense scenario, yes, of course, because it's not a martial art; it's a philosophy. There's martial arts is universal. Philosophies are that are separate. The way is what makes it different. So martial arts is just comprised of postures, and it's how we use those postures with the certain intention that we label them as such. So, it's just think about wrestling, think about Muay Thai, think about what is their philosophy of how they use those postures? How do they apply them? Tai Chi is more of
Mhm.
just about going with the flow rather than against it. That's about it. It's something that a jiu-jitsu person would probably relate to more so than maybe traditional. But yeah, I mean, they're just philosophies. It's up to you to make the philosophy work. If you get in the way, then it won't be that style. It's just you forcing something. But if you're aligning yourself with that philosophy, then you can make it work. It just depends. Uh, Surrender, I guess, to your ego. But the chi part is interesting. How chi can work in a fight, I don't think it should be used for fighting, but it's very, I think in a simple way is that if you are more aware the different types of energy you're more aware of how to apply it. So I would say that, have you ever sat in a jacuzzi and you just felt really, really, really relaxed and just slack? That would be like yin chi, where, if you're wrestling, for example, if you're a wrestler, it is really stupid to be super tight and super tense and squeeze all your muscles, because then everything is connected and you can just be yanked everywhere. You're supposed to be slack. That slackness and that relaxation, that would be your relaxed energy. Like, because you have to have energy. There's no such thing as no. If you'd be dead. Yanchi is more of like, have you ever been like startled or like a lightning bolt or whatever, and you just get this that feeling that Chinese people say "kapa," like that, like just scared. That is a pure form of what Yang Qi would be. But if you can be aware of that and use that whatever you want, that just applies to your punches. So your punch may have that popping feeling to them, which gives them more force. If you're more aware of your relaxation, you can apply it better to the moves that require them. So I mean, really what it is. It's awareness. Yes. Yes, that's the best answer I got. The more awareness you have, the better you are at fighting. Because if you've ever fought someone who's better than you, it feels like they're doing magic. But to them, it's not. They're just aware of something that you've never put attention to. So so that's what it is. You have over another person, the greater chance you have of overcoming them in a conflict scenario. And that could even be towards a conversation too. It doesn't have to be like fists or feet.
Wow, that's really, really impressive. Um,
Thanks.
what would you consider to be the most challenging aspect of mastering Bagua, Tai Chi, or Xing Yi? Do you consider it to be the same thing for all of those three martial arts, or would be a different aspect for each one?
It is the same difficulty as any other martial arts style, but I think it's the best style to learn this skill, and the skill is called surrendering. Surrendering. Now, people think surrendering, well, I mean, they might think French, but that's not what I mean. Surrendering is the aspect of, it's surrendering to the idea of something stronger than yourself. Some people usually go in more religious route, but I'm talking about alignment. So alignment is impartial to your feelings, to your opinion, stuff in nature, right? Have you ever seen like a shell? Like, those, well, of course you've seen,
Mhm.
like, a seashell? A seashell, it follows something it's called the Fibonacci sequence. Fibonacci sequence. The Fibonacci is a spiral that occurs within nature. It's an extremely structurally strong shape. Okay? So we're going to think of it like this. The shell that evolved to be that shape, it had no opinions. It has no ego. It's just following is naturally strong. If we discover what the strongest alignments are and we adapt to them, then we get better. But if we have ego and we think, well, I lift weights, I'm super strong, I'm just gonna muscle it. That works for a time. But at a certain point, you'll have to surrender to the alignment of your body. And if your alignment's no good and it works against itself, well, then you're just resisting and fighting yourself. So surrendering is the art of not resisting. It's going with nature rather than against nature. Now, of course, I'm getting philosophical and a little, but you need to understand that martial arts is a lifestyle. It's more than just a sport and a game. The martial arts is cultivation of self, cultivation of life, mastery of life. And to master life, you need to be attuned with life, synchronize with life. And the thing with Tai Chi and Bagua and Xing Yi is that they're Taoist martial arts, so they're in tune with that philosophy. So to make them work, you have to give up your muscles, you have to give up your your intentions of forcing your way through and learning to go with things rather than against them. Yeah, I think that's a good way to explain it.
So
Does
would
that
you
make
say
yeah?
that?
Is that good?
Sure, no, absolutely. So would you say that surrendering would be relaxing, would be working with the relaxation, mastering relaxation?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Have you ever like rolled with a spazzy white belt and
Mhm.
they're just doing this and they're like and they're squeezing really hard and they got a grip on your gi and they're just squeezing the life out of the gi and you're just staring at them like you're not me. My back is like this and I'm pressed against the ground leverages like I'm not budging. But they're just using their forearm. They're not using their whole body. They're just squeezing the life and then they get gassed out and then you're just like, come here, sweet child, and you just move them. You know, it's just it's that's a really good example. Like a jiu-jitsu black belt is attuned with alignment. He's with it rather than against it. A white belt resists that alignment because their ego's in the way. They're like, I'm just gonna win. The black belt's not trying to win. He's just listening. If you learn to listen, you get better. If you refuse to listen, then the only thing is yourself, as in like your own thoughts.
Wow, that's great. How do this internal martial arts contribute to longevity and overall health? Like, we discussed at the beginning about your back injury and how you went all the way to China to treat yourself and then found a whole different path through Chinese
Yep.
martial arts. But how could you simplify an explanation for people who are starting or is looking for a martial arts to benefit them in a health way? How can you explain to them like how because for people that does not understand it, they look, first thing that they go, of course, they're gonna go to the doctor and they're gonna prescribe medication. But how doing movements with their hands, doing the qigongs, doing five animals, Baguazhang, and so on, it will benefit them. You know that there's a whole concept behind work with the danchins, with the flow of your chi, of your energy. But how can you explain or simplify for those that does not understand?
Okay, well, it's simple. It's an investment of yourself. You need to think of it like no one ever thinks they're gonna die. Everyone thinks they're gonna live forever. They don't want to think about their old age, but it's coming, and you have to accept that. You're survive. Muscles come, muscles go. But once you get older, they'll atrophy. There's a Taoist saying where muscles come, muscles go, but alignment, or maybe it's tendons, like they last a long time. So you got to think of it again, back to alignment. If your knees are crooked and your hips are tight and your feet are flat, right? All these things are working against each other. Maybe it's not bothering you so much now, but the more muscle you lose and the older you get and the thinner your bones get or whatever as you age, the pain will only increase and the suffering will only increase. So abandon that idea of finding alignment with yourself and the ground and the air around you. And that goes beyond that, which is relationships with people and stuff. But finding alignment is the key to success and happiness because it's balance. It's structurally supported. It's very simple. It's just if have you ever seen a Bagua master in his like 70s? They move like someone in their 30s because they're not forcing their movement. They're using alignment to move. So that's why I would say Tai Chi or Bagua is so it's important to learn how to fight. It's more important to learn how to be. And you're learning how to be with those things. I mean, how often do you walk? How often do you stand versus how often do you fight your neighbor? It's rare, if not never happens. I take, I'm practicing my martial art, and I'm always engaged. And because of that, it makes me present. And being present is the key to being happy mentally. Because we're always on autopilot. We're in the future. We're living in the past. But we're realizing where we are right now. There's nothing. No, there's nothing else but right now. And if you're in the moment, and every step you take and every breath you take, you're always present, which means you're always happy. And then the level of that presence grows. Can get invest in something that's going to make you more present and bring your intentions to that moment. Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you believe that
Thanks.
Bagua and Tai Chi is more suitable for any particular age and specifically, or anyone can practice?
Um, I think anyone age. It depends on your body. I think age is a factor depending on your health, because there's a lot of people in their 70s that can do splits and they can do all kinds of great stuff, and there's people in their 70s that can barely walk. So it depends on your health. And also, even for mental maturity, I have I started teaching my first Bagua student, and they were 12, I think, or 11, and they do great. It just depends on your teacher and how well you can communicate, because I think an idiot, and pardon my words, but an idiot will make a simple thing complicated, but a genius or someone who's intelligent will make a complicated thing simple. So if you're very eloquent and you're very well versed, you can make anything simple. But I would recommend doing Tai Chi first. It's just a great way to be, because the essence of Tai Chi is alignment, while the essence of Xing Yi is intention, and the essence of Bagua is change. But you understand that alignment is within all of them. So within Tai Chi, it's about being in alignment with your body and the ground. That's a great way. And I guess the air you breathe within those movements. That's a great place to start. Xing Yi is about becoming in alignment with your intentions, establishing pure intentions, not muffled by doubt. And that's harder. And then Bagua is about becoming aligned with the essence of change, which is extremely dynamic, because if you've ever grappled or sparred, nothing goes your way. It's chaotic. It's a beautiful chaos mess. Becoming aligned with that, that's hard. You see them Bagua, it's a really great progression. But any age can do it. I don't believe in that.
So, do you think that Bagua completes or complements Tai Chi and Xing Yi in a sense where, the way they explain, they work three different perspectives of applications. So, would you say that one complements each other, or
Yeah.
they first
Yeah, I would say they
differentiate?
complement each other. Although you could do Tai Chi for the rest of your life, and that's all you need. They're all complete in their own. They're all complete in their own perspectives, but it's the angle of their perspective that helps you see the point. Do you understand? What is the point? Have you ever heard of the concept of a Taoist called Tao? Yes,
Mhm.
you know what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the Tao is a state of being where you're just, like I said, you're being. You're in the present. You're fully aware. You're just here. All the internal martial arts are working towards the Tao from a different perspective. Tai Chi is about finding that state of being within the concept of constantly being within alignment, like I said. And then the Xing Yi is the intention, and the Bagua is within constant. They all do the same thing. So maybe you need it. For example, I recommend to do Bagua if you have anxiety. Why? Because anxiety is fear. Fear of what? Fear of lack of control. Try to control life. And if we are trying to control life a lot, to a point where we're trying to control expectations and what's going to happen tomorrow and what's going to happen in the future and all that stuff, that's anxiety. But what Bagua does, it teaches you that you can't control anything. You are completely at the mercy of the. It's your ability to align with that versus your sense of control. So through the pursuit of Bagua, you learn that mistakes are opportunities for success, and you stop becoming a perfectionist and you start becoming an opportunist. If you have a lot of anxiety, I think Bagua has medicine to understand the concept of being here and now and present and happy. Does that make sense? And Tai Chi and Xing Yi have their own philosophies too that could help with some kind of mental illness, some kind of problem that you have that prevents you from just appreciating. Yeah.
Absolutely. Wow, that's amazing. Well, Coach Aaron,
Thanks.
we are heading to the end of our podcast. Just want to know if you have any final consideration. I know that you were when we met at the Pan American tournament. You were explaining a little bit about your airbender workshops. If you want to talk a little bit more about those, where
Sure.
you're teaching, how can we contact you, or any other people wants to contact you for sections? Just feel free to expose a little bit more about yourself.
Okay. Well, my Instagram is Wukong Martial Arts, and my website is also wukongmartialarts.com. And is also Wukong Martial Arts. Right now, I think what I'm trying to do is I really would like to open group classes for kids and adults. And what I'm going to do is apply this alignment concept to those things, but for different people. So for kids, I was going to teach more of like a, I guess like Avatar Airbender esque like class style where they would learn wushu and Shaolin and flips and acrobatics in the beginning, and that would be like their fire bending. Then they would, if they graduated from that, then they can learn water bending, which is Tai Chi, and they can learn air bending, which is Bagua. But all of this is trying to, I'm going to incorporate personal training and physical therapy aspects, as well as martial arts and practical sparring. They're whole comprehensive, as well as character development, because my main specialty is helping kids develop a good character, a strong character, and helping them overcome their weaknesses and turning them into strength. And those classes, and I have space, I have building space. It's just more of just like trying to find the right avenue to advertise what I'm trying to do. And then for adults, I'm going to open something called the School of Alignment, where I'm going to teach like a qigong class with 5 animals qigong as well. And the first class, you're just learning how to stand with good posture correctly. And that's profound in itself. It sounds boring, but it's not, because everything's happening on the
Mhm.
inside. And also, you're learning the 5 animals Qigong in tandem with learning how to stretch and how to rehabilitate your body. So it's a great class for adults to start if they want to go into martial arts. And then it'll branch into Tai Chi. And then in the future, it'll branch into Bagua. But it'll give them everything they need. So that's really what I'm trying to promote. And then on top of that, I'm actually going to start a series on TikTok and Instagram where I'm going to teach online for free. And because I found a really great method to teach someone how to do authentic and real Bagua with just resistance bands. All you need is a resistance band for your hips and for your upper body. And then, I can explain and ways to use them that basically follow your joints and your tendon line, and it shows you the right feeling to feel in those movements. So I'm just going to basically create a foundational thing where this is how you stand, this is how you do the stances, this is how the first posture, all the way up. Eventually they'll have like the first form, and I think it'll be a really cool project, and I hope it'll get a good following. I hope people can really appreciate the level of worth that they can get for free, and then I could use that as just I just want to tell people that I'm not illegitimate. I'm genuinely trying my best and researching and learning from the best and trying to produce the best results for the sole reason of bettering the community and helping people become happy and successful in their lives. So I'd really love if people could forms and comment and give me feedback and interact with me. And I'm pretty funny, so I mean I can also make you laugh a couple times, and that's really what I'm trying to do right now. Also,
That
this is my logo. Yeah.
nice. That's incredible. No, thank you very much. And I will also put on the description of our podcast all your information. Anyone wants to get in touch with Coach Aaron, so just follow the links or send us a private message, and we'll send his information as well. So if you're in San Jose, right, Santa Clara, correct?
Yeah, I work in the San Jose area, but I mean I'm pretty mobile. I can go to a lot of places in the Bay Area.
Awesome, absolutely. So, Coach Aaron, thank you so much for this chat. It was amazing. We have to meet again, get a little bit deep into qigong. I would love to hear more, but this was that for today. Thank you so much. I appreciate for your commitment, for sharing your martial art experience, a little bit of your background. I know there's way more for you to share. But let's try to meet up sometime in this in some next episode, and then we start from there. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you as well. Thank you, Coach Aaron. Thank you, people
Yeah.
who is watching up to here. Um, Please subscribe, like, and comment. It will help a lot. And yeah, so thank you very much
Yeah.
for today. Now it's already
Thank you so
afternoon, and
much. Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to do more things in the future. Also, let's get some coffee sometime. Just talk,
absolutely.
just as friends. All right. I'll see you later then.
Thank you very much, Coach Aaron. Thank you very much, guys, and have a wonderful night. See you guys again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.